The metal floor felt cold against Hyun's bare feet. He sat in the corner of the small prison cell, watching water drops fall from a broken pipe in the ceiling. Each drop made a tiny splash sound that echoed in the quiet space. 3 months had passed since the aliens took him from his home. 3 months since he last saw blue skies and felt real sunlight on his face. His older sister Mirai sat next to him on the hard bench. She was only 16, but the past months had made her look much older. Her black hair was dirty and tangled. Dark circles surrounded her eyes from too many sleepless nights. Even so, she kept her arm around Hyun's shoulders, trying to make him feel safe. "Are you hungry?" Mirai whispered. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small piece of bread she had saved from their morning meal. The bread was dry and tasteless, but it was food. Hyun shook his head. "You eat it. You need to stay strong." "I am strong enough," Mirai said. She broke the bread in half and gave him the larger piece. "You are still growing. You need this more than me." Around them, other human prisoners filled the crowded cell block. Men, women, and children from different Earth colonies sat on benches or lay on thin mattresses on the floor. Some talked quietly to each other. Others stared at nothing with empty eyes. All of them had lost everything when the Vraxian ships came. Hyun remembered that terrible day clearly. He was playing in the garden behind his family's house on Taeyang Colony when the sky suddenly turned dark. Huge alien ships blocked out the sun. His parents rushed outside, still wearing their Earth Defense Force uniforms. "Stay inside and hide," his father Daehyun had shouted. "Take Mirai and go to the basement. Do not come out no matter what you hear." His mother Soyeon kissed both children quickly. "Remember everything we taught you," she said. "Be smart. Be careful. Stay alive." Those were the last words Hyun heard from his parents. Hours later, alien soldiers found him and Mirai hiding in their basement. The house above them was burning. Their parents were gone. A loud buzz filled the cell block. All the prisoners looked up as heavy footsteps echoed in the hallway. Hyun knew that sound well. The Vraxian guards were coming. Their thick boots made deep thumping noises on the metal floor. The cell door slid open with a sharp hiss. 2 Vraxian soldiers walked inside. They were both 7 feet tall with dark green scales covering their bodies. Their yellow eyes looked around the cell like hungry snakes searching for prey. Sharp teeth showed when they opened their mouths to speak. "Attention, humans," the first guard said. His voice was deep and rough like grinding stones. "Today is a special day. Our great arena will host entertainment for citizens across the empire." The second guard smiled, showing even more teeth. "One of you will have the honor of fighting our champion warrior Krex in combat. This will show all worlds how weak and pathetic humans truly are." Fear filled the cell. Parents pulled their children closer. Some people started to cry quietly. Everyone knew what this meant. No human had ever survived a fight in the Vraxian arena. It was not meant to be fair. It was meant to be a show. "We need a young one," the first guard continued. "Children make the best entertainment. The audience loves to see how helpless human youngsters are against our mighty warriors." Hyun felt Mirai's arm tighten around him. She was trying to hide him behind her body. Other parents were doing the same thing, pushing their children toward the back of the cell. But there was nowhere to hide in the small space. The guards walked slowly through the crowd of prisoners. They looked at each child carefully, like shoppers choosing fruit at a market. When they reached a 7-year-old girl named Sumi, the first guard stopped. "This one will do," he said, reaching toward her. Sumi's mother threw herself in front of her daughter. "No, please. She is too small." "Take me instead." The guard pushed the woman aside easily. She fell hard against the wall and did not get up. "Adults are not entertaining," the guard said. "The audience wants to see a child learn fear." "Wait," Hyun said, standing up. His voice was quiet, but everyone in the cell heard him. Mirai grabbed his arm. "Hyun, no, sit down." "Be quiet," but Hyun stepped forward anyway. "I will fight your warrior." The guards looked at him with surprise. Then they started to laugh. Their laughter sounded like rocks falling down a mountain. "You volunteer?" the second guard asked. "How interesting. Most human children cry and hide when we come for them." "Leave the others alone," Hyun said. "I will go." "Hyun, please," Mirai begged. She tried to pull him back, but he gently moved her hands away. "You taught me to protect people who cannot protect themselves," he whispered to her. "That little girl cannot fight. But maybe I can try." The guards looked pleased. "A brave little human," the first one said. "This will make the show even better. The audience loves courage before the crushing defeat." One guard grabbed Hyun's arm and pulled him toward the door. Mirai tried to follow, but the second guard blocked her way. "My brother," she cried out. "Please let me stay with him." "You will watch from here," the guard said. "All prisoners will watch. You will see what happens to humans who think they can fight against the Vraxian Empire." As they dragged him away, Hyun looked back at Mirai. She was crying now, reaching out toward him through the bars. Other prisoners watched with sad faces. Some whispered prayers. Others just shook their heads, but Hyun was not afraid. Not yet. His parents had taught him many things before they died. They showed him how to move quietly, how to watch for danger, and how to think quickly when problems came. They said humans were different from other species because they could adapt and survive in any situation. The strong do not always win, his father had told him during their training sessions. Sometimes the smart ones win. Sometimes the ones who refuse to give up win. Remember that, son. The guards led him down long hallways toward the arena. With each step, the noise from the crowd grew louder. Thousands of alien voices were cheering and shouting. They were excited to see another human die for their entertainment. Hyun took a deep breath and tried to remember everything his parents had taught him. In a few minutes, he would face the most dangerous moment of his young life. But he would not go down easily. If he was going to die, he would make it count. The crowd's roar grew louder as they reached the arena entrance. Hyun closed his eyes and thought of his family. Then he opened them and walked toward his destiny. The roar hit Hyun like a wave when the gates opened. 50,000 Vraxian voices screamed and cheered from the massive arena seats that rose high into the dark sky. The sound was so loud it made his ears hurt and his chest vibrate. He had never heard anything like it in his life. The arena floor stretched out before him like a giant circle made of smooth stone. It was bigger than 10 football fields put together. Strange symbols were carved into the walls around the fighting area. Purple lights shone down from the ceiling, making everything look alien and scary. Hyun stepped onto the arena floor wearing only simple gray clothes that the guards had given him. The stone felt rough under his bare feet. No weapons, no armor, no protection of any kind. He looked tiny in the huge space. On the other side of the arena, another gate opened with a loud grinding sound. The crowd's cheering got even louder as a massive figure walked out. This was Krex, the champion warrior everyone had been waiting to see. Krex stood 7.5 feet tall. His body was covered in thick green and brown scales that looked harder than metal. Scars crossed his arms and chest, telling stories of many battles he had won. His yellow eyes glowed in the purple light as he looked at Hyun with amusement. The warrior wore ceremonial armor that covered his shoulders and chest. The armor was black with silver designs that showed his high rank in the Vraxian military. In his hands he carried a plasma rifle that hummed with deadly energy. A smaller energy weapon hung from his belt next to a curved combat knife. Krex raised his rifle high above his head and let out a roar that echoed through the arena. The crowd went wild. They chanted his name over and over. He was their hero, their champion who had never lost a fight. Then Krex pointed his weapon at Hyun. The small human boy standing alone on the other side of the arena looked like a mouse facing a lion. The size difference was so great that some aliens in the crowd started to laugh. How could this tiny creature even think about fighting their mighty warrior? Large screens around the arena showed numbers that made the crowd cheer louder. The betting odds flashed in bright colors, 50,000 to 1 against the human child. Nobody thought Hyun had even the smallest chance of winning. This was not meant to be a real fight. It was meant to be entertainment. High above the arena floor in special viewing boxes, important Vraxian leaders watched the show. They wore expensive clothes and jewelry that showed their wealth and power. Servants brought them food and drinks while they enjoyed the spectacle below. "Look at that pathetic little thing," said General Vorthak, the military commander of this sector. "Is this really the best the humans can offer? No wonder we conquered their world so easily." Admiral Zekris laughed as she placed a bet on her personal viewing device. "I give the child 30 seconds before he starts crying. Maybe 40 seconds before Krex gets bored and ends it." Humans are weak because they care too much about their young," said Chancellor Grex. "They spend time teaching children soft things like art and music instead of proper combat training. This is why they will never be warriors like us." Down on the arena floor, a mechanical voice spoke over the loudspeakers. It translated the announcements into different alien languages so everyone in the audience could understand. "Citizens of the great Vraxian Empire," the voice boomed. Today you will witness the power of our superior race. Watch as our champion Krex demonstrates why humans are fit only to be slaves and servants. The crowd cheered again. Many of them had traveled from distant worlds just to see this show. Some had never seen a human before. They expected to watch a quick and brutal demonstration of Vraxian strength. In the red corner, the announcer continued, "We have champion Krex, winner of 300 battles, destroyer of rebel armies, pride of the Empire." Krex performed for the crowd, flexing his muscles and showing off his weapons. He fired a test shot from his plasma rifle into the air. The bright energy bolt left a trail of sparks that made the audience gasp with excitement. In the blue corner, the announcer said with obvious mockery, "We have a human child, age 12 years. No military training, no weapons, no hope." Some aliens laughed so hard they fell out of their seats. Others made jokes about how quickly the fight would end. A few started making bets about which body part Krex would target first, but not all the aliens were laughing. In one section of the arena, a group of Zephyrian traders watched quietly. Their species had been conquered by the Vraxians 50 years ago. They remembered what it felt like to be the ones in the arena fighting for their lives. "The boy shows no fear," whispered Elder Kix to his companion. "Look at his eyes. He is not paralyzed with terror like most victims." "Perhaps," replied Trader Voss. "But courage alone cannot defeat plasma weapons and battle armor. This will end badly." Back in the prison cells, Mireille pressed her face against the bars of the small window that looked out toward the arena. She could not see the fighting floor, but she could hear the crowd. Every cheer made her heart feel heavier. "He is brave," said Captain Kang, an older Earth Defense Force officer who had been captured in the same raid as the children. "Your brother has the spirit of a warrior." "Bravery will not save him from that monster," Mireille whispered. Tears ran down her cheeks. "He is just a child. Why did he have to volunteer? Why could it not be me instead?" "Because he has a good heart," Captain Kang replied. "He wanted to protect the younger ones. That is what heroes do." On the arena floor, Hyon stood still and quiet while Krex continued his show for the crowd. The human boy was studying everything carefully. The arena layout, the warrior's weapons, the way the alien moved. His parents had taught him that information was the most powerful weapon of all. The crowd began to chant for the fight to begin. They were getting impatient. They wanted to see action, violence, and victory for their champion. Krex looked at Hyon and smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Are you ready to die, little human?" He called out in the common language that most species could understand. Hyon did not answer. He just watched and waited. Soon, very soon, the real fight would begin. A loud horn sounded across the arena, signaling the start of the match. The crowd fell silent for just a moment, then erupted in cheers again. They were ready to watch their champion destroy the small human child. Krex raised his plasma rifle and aimed it at Hyon. The weapon's energy core glowed bright blue as it charged up for the first shot. The warrior's finger moved toward the trigger. Hyon stumbled backward and fell down. He scrambled on his hands and knees, trying to get away from the alien warrior. His eyes were wide with fear and his mouth was open like he wanted to scream but could not make any sound. The crowd loved it. They laughed and pointed at the scared little boy. This was exactly what they had come to see. A weak human showing terror in front of their mighty champion. "Look how he runs," shouted one alien in the stands. "Like a frightened animal." "Humans are all cowards," yelled another. "They have no honor, no strength, no courage." Krex lowered his weapon slightly and walked slowly toward Hyon. He was not in any hurry. The boy could not escape from the arena, and running around would just make the show more entertaining for the audience. "There is nowhere to run, little human," Krex called out. "This arena has no exits for you. You can crawl around like a bug, but in the end you will face me." Hyon kept moving backward, always staying far away from the warrior. He tripped over his own feet and fell again. When he got up, his hands were shaking and he looked like he might start crying at any moment. But something was strange. Even though Hyon looked completely terrified, he was not running in random directions. His movement had a pattern. He was leading Krex slowly around the arena in a wide circle. Each time he stumbled or fell, he ended up a little bit closer to the center of the fighting area. In the prison cells, Captain Kang watched through the small window with growing interest. He could not see everything that was happening, but he could hear the crowd's reactions. "The boy is moving with purpose," he said quietly to the other prisoners. "Listen to the crowd. They are laughing because they think he is running in panic. But I trained many young soldiers. That does not sound like random fear to me. Mireille looked at him with hope in her eyes. What do you mean? Your parents were both tactical officers, Captain Kang explained. They would have taught Jan to think like a soldier, not just fight like one. Maybe he is not as helpless as he appears. Back in the arena, Krex was getting tired of the chase. He fired a plasma bolt that hit the ground right next to Hyan's feet. The energy blast left a smoking crater in the stone floor. The heat was so intense that Hyun felt it through his thin clothes. Stop running, coward, Krex shouted. Face me like a warrior, not like a scared animal. Hyun fell down again, this time right in the center of the arena. He curled up in a ball and covered his head with his arms, as if trying to protect himself from the next attack. The crowd thought this was the funniest thing they had ever seen. Krex walked over to stand directly above the trembling boy. He placed one heavy boot on the ground next to Hyun's head. The warrior was so close now that Hyun could smell his breath and see the scratches on his armor. This is too easy, Krex announced to the crowd. The human is already defeated and I have barely begun to fight. Watch now as I show you how weak their species truly is. The warrior raised his plasma rifle and aimed it at Hyan's left arm. He planned to wound the boy first, then hurt him slowly to make the entertainment last longer. The crowd would enjoy watching the human suffer before the final killing blow. But while Krex was talking to the audience, Jan was doing something else. His eyes were not closed in fear like everyone thought. Instead, he was studying the warrior's equipment very carefully. He looked at the joints in Krex's armor where different pieces connected together. He examined the warrior's belt to see how the weapons were attached. Most importantly, he studied the plasma rifle to understand how it worked and where its weak points might be. His father had shown him pictures of Vraxian weapons during their training sessions at home. Know your enemy's tools, Daehyun had always said. Every weapon has strengths and weaknesses. Find the weaknesses and you can win even when you are outgunned. His mother had taught him about fighting tactics. Sometimes the best strategy is to let your enemy think you are weak, Soyeon had explained. When they underestimate you, they make mistakes. When they make mistakes, you can defeat them. Now Hyun was using both lessons at the same time. He let Krex think he was a helpless victim, while secretly preparing his real attack. The ground beneath them was covered with sand and small rocks that had fallen from the arena walls over many years. During his stumbling around the arena, Hyan had been gathering handfuls of this sand and hiding it in his pockets. Now he had enough. Krex pointed his weapon at Hyan's arm and began to squeeze the trigger. This will hurt, little human, he said with cruel pleasure. But do not worry. I will not kill you quickly. We must give the audience a good show first. The crowd leaned forward in their seats. This was the moment they had been waiting for. They wanted to see the human child learn what happened when inferior species tried to challenge the Vraxian Empire. High above in the luxury viewing boxes, the alien leaders watched with satisfaction. This demonstration would be broadcast across the galaxy. Every conquered species would see it and remember their place in the Empire. Excellent, said General Vorthak. After this, no human will ever dare to resist us again. They will know that even their children cannot stand against our weakest soldiers. But down on the arena floor, Hyun was not thinking about the crowd or the alien leaders. He was thinking about his parents, his sister, and all the other humans who had died fighting against the Vraxians. He was thinking about little Sumi back in the prison cell, and all the other children who were depending on him to protect them. Most of all, he was thinking about the 3 seconds of opportunity that were about to come. 3 seconds when Krex would be focused on his weapon instead of watching for danger. 3 seconds when the warrior's confidence would make him careless. 3 seconds to change everything. Hyun took a deep breath and prepared to show the galaxy what humans were really capable of when they stopped being afraid and started fighting back. The arena fell completely silent. 50,000 aliens held their breath as Krex prepared to fire his plasma rifle at the helpless human child. Even the wind seemed to stop blowing. This was the moment everyone had come to see. Krex smiled as he aimed carefully at Hyun's left arm. He wanted to wound the boy precisely, causing maximum pain without killing him too quickly. The warrior's finger began to squeeze the trigger slowly. The plasma rifle's energy core hummed louder as it prepared to fire. Goodbye, little human, Krex whispered. Then everything changed in 3 seconds. Second 1. Just as Krex's finger reached the firing point, Hyun exploded into action. All the fear and trembling disappeared instantly. He rolled hard to his left while pulling handfuls of sand from his pockets. The sand flew through the air in a perfect arc, hitting Krex directly in his yellow eyes. The warrior roared in pain and surprise as the gritty particles scratched his vision sensors. His plasma shot went wild, blasting harmlessly into the arena wall. At the same moment, Hyan completed his roll and swept his leg in a wide circle. His father had taught him this move during countless training sessions. Go for the knees, Daehyun had always said. No matter how big and strong your enemy is, everyone falls the same way. Hyan's leg hit Krex right behind the knees. The huge warrior was off balance from the sand attack, and the sweep brought him crashing down. His massive body hit the arena floor with a sound like thunder. Second 2. While Krex was falling, Hyan sprang to his feet and jumped forward. He was small enough to fit under the warrior's reaching arms. His size, which everyone thought was a weakness, became his greatest advantage. Krex tried to grab the boy, but he was still blinded by sand and confused by the sudden attack. His huge hands closed on empty air as Hyan slipped past them like water. The plasma rifle was still in Krex's grip, but the warrior could not see where to aim it. He fired twice more, but both shots missed completely. One blast hit the arena ceiling. The other melted a hole in the stone floor. Hyan grabbed the rifle's barrel with both hands. The metal was hot from firing, but he ignored the pain. Using leverage and momentum instead of strength, he twisted the weapon hard to the right while Krex was still trying to clear his vision. The warrior's own weight worked against him. As he fell, his grip on the rifle loosened just enough for Hyan to tear it away. The boy rolled backward, clutching the heavy weapon against his chest. Second 3. Krex finally cleared the sand from his eyes and looked around for his enemy. He expected to see the human child cowering in fear somewhere across the arena. Instead, he found himself staring down the barrel of his own plasma rifle. Hyan knelt on the arena floor 10 feet away, holding the weapon steady despite its weight. During the chaos, he had spotted exactly what he was looking for. A weak point in Krex's armor that his mother had shown him in intelligence photos years ago. Vraxian battle armor has one major flaw, Soyeon had explained during their lessons. The joint where the chest plate connects to the shoulder guard leaves a small gap. It is only 2 inches wide, but a precise shot there will penetrate straight to the heart. Now Hyan could see that gap clearly. The armor had shifted when Krex fell, making the weak point even more exposed. It was a perfect target. Krex realized his danger and started to get up. "Wait," he said, his voice no longer confident and cruel. "You do not understand. This was just entertainment. I was not really going to hurt you badly." "You killed my parents," Hyan replied quietly. His voice was steady now, with no trace of the fear he had shown before. "You destroyed my home. You made my sister cry. That was war," Krex protested. "Soldiers die in war, that is normal." "Yes," Hyan agreed. "Soldiers do die in war." He pulled the trigger. The plasma bolt hit Krex's armor gap with perfect accuracy. The energy beam burned through the warrior's chest in an instant. Krex looked down in shock at the smoking hole where his heart used to be. Then he fell forward and did not move again. The arena stayed silent for a long moment. Nobody could believe what they had just seen. A 12-year-old human child had defeated their greatest champion warrior in single combat. It was impossible. It could not be real. Then someone in the crowd screamed. The sound broke the spell, and suddenly everyone was shouting at once. Some aliens were angry, others were afraid. A few were even impressed, though they tried to hide it. Hyan stood up slowly, still holding the plasma rifle. He looked around the arena at the thousands of shocked faces staring down at him. For the first time since the fight began, he smiled. "My name is Hyan," he called out in a voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "I am 12 years old. I am from Earth Colony Taiyang. My parents were General Daehyun and General Soyeon of the Earth Defense Force." The crowd noise faded as aliens strained to hear what the boy was saying. Many of them had never heard a human speak before. They expected the voice to be weak and pathetic. Instead, Hyan sounded strong and proud. "You came to watch a human child die," Hyan continued. "You thought it would be funny to see me cry and beg for mercy. You thought humans were weak, Because we were not ready when you attacked our worlds. He pointed the plasma rifle at the luxury viewing boxes where the Vraxian leaders sat. Several of them moved back from the windows, suddenly remembering that the weapon was still loaded. But we are ready now, Hyon said. We know who you are. We know how you fight. We know where your armor is weak and where your weapons fail. General Vorthak stood up in his viewing box. Kill him, he shouted to the arena guards. Kill him now before he says anything else. But it was already too late. The fight had been broadcast live across the Vraxian Empire. On 1,000 worlds, billions of aliens had watched a human child defeat their champion. They had heard his words. They had seen that humans could fight back. More importantly, other humans had been watching too. In prison camps across the galaxy, human slaves had found ways to see the broadcast. They knew now that resistance was possible. They knew that their captors could be beaten. The revolution was about to begin. Chaos erupted throughout the massive arena. Aliens jumped from their seats shouting in fear and anger. Some ran toward the exits while others pushed forward to get a better look at the human child who had done the impossible. Arena security forces rushed through the hallways, trying to reach the fighting floor. Their boots thundered on metal stairs as they descended from their posts high on the walls. Each guard carried heavy weapons designed to handle prisoner riots. But Hyon was not finished speaking. He walked to the center of the arena, stepping over Krex's motionless body. The plasma rifle felt lighter in his hands now, as if defeating the warrior had given him new strength. Listen to me, he called out, his young voice carrying across the vast space. All of you who think humans are weak and stupid, all of you who laugh at us and treat us like animals, I want you to understand something very important. The arena's sound system picked up his words and broadcast them to every seat. The noise from the crowd began to fade as curiosity overcame panic. Even the aliens who hated humans wanted to hear what he would say next. My parents did not die because they were weak, Hyon continued. General Dae-Hyun commanded 3-star fleets before your surprise attack. General Soyun developed the tactics that won the Battle of Kepler Station. They died because you attacked our worlds without warning while our people were sleeping. High above, Admiral Zekris gripped the railing of her viewing box. How does a child know military history? She whispered to General Vorthak. Human prisoners are not supposed to have access to that information. It does not matter, Vorthak replied, though sweat was forming on his scaled forehead. One lucky fight means nothing. He is still just a boy with one weapon against an entire empire. But down on the arena floor, Hyon was revealing truths that made many aliens very uncomfortable. You call us weak because we care about our children, he said. You think it is foolish that we teach them art and music instead of only fighting. But you are wrong about what makes us strong. Hyon held up the plasma rifle for everyone to see. This weapon belongs to your greatest warrior, your champion who never lost a fight. He was bigger than me, stronger than me. He had better equipment and more experience. By every measure you understand, he should have won easily. The arena fell completely silent now. Even the security guards stopped moving as they listened to the boy's words. But he lost because he made the same mistake all of you make, Hyon explained. He thought strength was only about muscles and weapons. He thought victory came from being scary and cruel. He forgot that the most powerful weapon is knowledge. Several aliens in the crowd shifted uncomfortably. They were beginning to understand that this human child knew things that no prisoner should know. My parents taught me about your species before they died, Hyon continued. Not just how to fight you, but how to think like you. They showed me your weapons, your armor, your ships. They explained your tactics and your weaknesses. They prepared me for this day. In the prison cells below the arena, Captain Kang smiled grimly as he listened to the broadcast. Clever boy, he muttered. He is telling them exactly what they do not want to hear. Mirai pressed closer to the small window. She could not see her brother, but his voice sounded strong and confident. This was not the scared little boy who had been dragged away an hour ago. This was someone else entirely. What is he doing? Asked another prisoner. Why is he making them angry? He is showing them that we are not the helpless victims they thought we were, Captain Kang replied. Every word he speaks is a message to humans across the galaxy. He is telling them to fight back. On the arena floor, Hyon walked closer to the viewing boxes where the Vraxian leaders sat. Several of them moved away from the windows, but they could not stop listening to his words. You broadcast this fight to show other species how weak humans are, Hyon said. Instead, you have shown them that a human child can defeat your best warrior when he is properly prepared. You have shown them that your empire is not as strong as you pretend. General Vorthak finally lost his temper. He grabbed a communicator and shouted orders to the arena guards. "Kill that human now! Shoot him before he says anything else." But the guards hesitated. Something about the situation felt wrong to them. The boy was just standing there making no threatening moves. Shooting an unarmed child, even a human one, seemed dishonorable. That moment of hesitation was all the time Hyun needed. He activated the arena's emergency communication system, which was designed to broadcast warnings during prisoner riots or equipment failures. "My name is Hyun, son of Daehyun and Soyeon." His voice boomed across not just the arena, but through communication networks spanning dozens of star systems. "I am speaking to every human who can hear this message. Our people are not weak. Our people are not defeated. Our people are ready to come home." The broadcast reached human prisoners in work camps on 17 different worlds. It reached the hidden colonies that had escaped Vraxian detection. Most importantly, it reached the Earth Defense Force remnants who had been organizing resistance cells throughout occupied space. On a secret base in the Outer Rim, Admiral Jiwon stood up from her command chair as Hyun's message filled the communication center. She had known his parents well. They had served together during the first Vraxian raids 5 years ago. "Send the activation codes to all resistance cells," she ordered her staff. "The time for hiding is over. That brave boy just gave us the signal we have been waiting for." Back in the arena, security forces finally overcame their hesitation and began firing at Hyun. But they were too late. The communication system had carried his message across the galaxy, and chaos was breaking out in the prison cells below. The human prisoners had heard everything. They knew now that their people were fighting back. They knew that rescue was coming. Most importantly, they knew that they did not have to wait quietly for death anymore. Captain Kang kicked open the weakened cell door that guards had damaged months ago, but never properly repaired. "Everyone out!" he shouted. "Find weapons. Find your families. Today we go home." Mirai was the first one through the door. She had only one thought in her mind. She had to reach her brother before the guards killed him. She had to make sure that his sacrifice was not wasted. Throughout the prison levels, similar scenes played out as human captives overwhelmed their guards. The Vraxians had always kept humans in minimal security because they thought the prisoners were too weak and scared to rebel. They were about to learn how wrong they had been. The revolution that would shake the entire galaxy had begun with 3 seconds in an arena and the voice of a 12-year-old boy who refused to be afraid. 3 months later, Jan stood on the observation deck of the battleship Taeyang's Pride, watching Earth grow larger in the main view screen. The blue and green planet looked exactly as he remembered from old photographs, but now it was surrounded by the massive fleet that would bring his people home. The ship was named after his birth colony, destroyed in the first Vraxian attack. Admiral Jiwon had chosen the name to honor all the humans who died in those early raids, including Hyun's parents. It seemed right that their son would ride this ship back to liberate their homeworld. "Are you nervous?" asked Mirai, joining him at the window. She looked different now, wearing the uniform of a communication specialist in the resistance fleet. The months of fighting had made her stronger and more confident. "A little," Hyun admitted. "It feels strange to be going home after so long." Behind them, the ship bustled with activity as crew members prepared for the final assault on Earth. Most of them were humans who had been freed from prison camps across the galaxy. Others were members of alien species who had joined the rebellion after seeing Hyun's arena broadcast. The broadcast had changed everything. Within days of the fight, uprisings broke out on dozens of Vraxian-controlled worlds. Species that had been conquered decades ago suddenly remembered what it felt like to fight for freedom. The empire that had seemed unbeatable began to crumble from within. Hyun walked through the ship's corridors toward the main briefing room. Soldiers and officers saluted as he passed, but he still felt uncomfortable with the attention. He was just a kid who had gotten lucky in a fight. The real heroes were people like Admiral Jiwon, who had spent years building the resistance from nothing. In the briefing room, dozens of military officers studied holographic displays showing Earth's defenses. The Vraxians had turned humanity's homeworld into a fortress, but 3 months of intelligence gathering had revealed weaknesses in their security. The orbital defense platforms are heavily armed, reported Colonel Minho, the fleet's tactical officer. But they are designed to stop attacks from space, not from inside the defensive perimeter. Admiral Jiwan nodded as she examined the data. Our advanced teams have already infiltrated the planet's surface. When we begin the main assault, they will strike the platforms from below while our ships attack from above. Hyon took his seat at the strategy table. Over the past months, he had become an unofficial advisor to the fleet command. His experience fighting Vraxians, combined with the tactical knowledge his parents had taught him, made him valuable despite his young age. "What about civilian casualties?" he asked. "There are still millions of humans on Earth who might be caught in the fighting." "We have identified the major population centers," Admiral Jiwan replied. "Our first priority is securing those areas and evacuating non-combatants to safety. The liberation of Earth must not become the destruction of Earth." The briefing continued for 2 hours as officers discussed attack routes, supply lines, and contingency plans. Hyon listened carefully, occasionally asking questions or suggesting modifications based on his knowledge of Vraxian tactics. When the meeting ended, Admiral Jiwan asked him to stay behind. The other officers filed out, leaving them alone in the quiet room. "Are you sure you want to go down to the planet's surface?" she asked. "You have already done more than anyone could expect. You could stay on the ship and coordinate communications." Hyon shook his head. "My parents died defending Earth. I need to be there when we take it back." Admiral Jiwan studied his face for a moment, then nodded. "Your parents would be proud of you, not just for what you did in that arena, but for what you have become since then." "I just did what they taught me," Hyon replied. "They said humans survive by adapting and helping each other." "That is what we are doing now," the Admiral smiled. "Yes, but you did something else too. You showed the galaxy that humans are not victims. We may be smaller and weaker than other species individually, but together we are unstoppable." The next morning, the Liberation Fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Earth's solar system. 200 ships of various sizes spread out in attack formation, from massive battle cruisers to small fighter squadrons. On Earth, Vraxian sensors detected the approaching fleet immediately. Alarms blared across military bases as the Empire's forces prepared for the largest battle in their history. They had been expecting this attack ever since the prison camp uprisings began. General Vorthak, now in command of Earth's defenses, watched the tactical displays with growing concern. Intelligence reports had warned him that the human resistance had grown stronger, but he had not expected such a large and well-organized fleet. "How many ships?" he asked his aide. "At least 200, sir. Maybe more arriving from different vectors." Vorthak's scales darkened with worry. The Vraxian garrison on Earth numbered only 50,000 troops, supported by orbital platforms and ground-based weapons. Against a fleet this size, they would need reinforcements from the core worlds. "Send a priority message to the High Command," he ordered. "Request immediate military support. Tell them the humans are better organized than we thought." But help would not arrive in time. The human fleet had planned this assault for months, waiting until most of the Vraxian navy was busy fighting rebellions in other systems. Earth's defenders would have to face the Liberation Force alone. Hyon strapped himself into the pilot seat of a small transport ship as the main assault began. Around him, other members of the Special Operations team checked their equipment one final time. Their mission was to capture the primary communication center in what used to be New Sol, allowing the fleet to coordinate with resistance fighters across the planet. "Remember," said Captain Kang, who had volunteered to lead the ground mission, "we are not here for revenge. We are here to free our people and reclaim our world. Fight with honor." The transport ship shuddered as it entered Earth's atmosphere. Through the windows, Hyon could see plasma fire streaking across the sky as human fighters battled Vraxian defenders. The liberation of Earth had begun. Hours later, after fierce fighting throughout the city, Hyon stood in the ruins of the communication center they had successfully captured. The Vraxian forces were retreating toward their fortified positions, but human resistance fighters were emerging from hiding places all across the planet. The boy who had started a revolution in an arena now watched as that revolution reached its final victory. Through the damaged windows, he could see human flags being raised over buildings that had been under alien control for 3 long years. "The orbital platforms have surrendered," reported Mireille from her communication station. "Admiral Jiwan says the space battle is over." "Earth is free!" Hyun smiled as cheers erupted from the human soldiers around him, but his thoughts turned to a small memorial garden that his team had discovered earlier in the day. The Vraxians had built it to honor their fallen warriors, including Champion Krex. Walking over to Captain Kang, Hyun spoke quietly so the celebrating soldiers could not hear. "I want to visit my parents' graves when this is over." "Of course," Captain Kang replied. "But first there is something else we need to do. Admiral Jiwon wants you to record a message for the galaxy. The same communication networks that broadcast your arena fight are still active. The whole universe is watching to see what happens next." An hour later, Hyun stood before the cameras in the liberated communication center. This time he was not alone on a hostile arena floor. Mirai stood beside him along with Captain Kang, Admiral Jiwon, and dozens of other humans who had fought to reclaim their world. 3 months ago, I spoke to you from an arena where I was supposed to die, Hyun began, his voice steady and calm. I told you that humans were not weak and that we would come home. Today we kept that promise. The broadcast reached every corner of the galaxy. On Vraxian worlds, citizens watched in shock as their empire's greatest conquest was taken away by the species they had considered inferior. On conquered planets, other oppressed peoples saw proof that even the mightiest empire could fall. We did not win because we were stronger or more violent than our enemies, Hyun continued. We won because we remembered who we are. We are the species that explores unknown stars. We are the people who help each other survive. We are the ones who teach our children that knowledge is more powerful than weapons. In the audience, Admiral Jiwon nodded approvingly. The boy had learned much in the months since his arena fight, but he had never forgotten the lessons his parents taught him. To every species watching this broadcast, we offer friendship and cooperation, Hyun said. To the Vraxian people, we offer forgiveness and a chance to build peace together. And to every human still scattered across the galaxy, we say this: welcome home. Earth is free and we are waiting for you. The broadcast ended, but its effects would be felt for generations. The Vraxian Empire collapsed within a year as world after world declared independence. A new galactic alliance formed, built on cooperation instead of conquest. Years later, when Hyun had grown into a man and become Earth's youngest admiral, he would often visit the memorial garden where his parents were buried. Their names were carved in stone alongside thousands of other heroes who died fighting for humanity's freedom. But the inscription that meant the most to him was much simpler. On a small plaque near the garden's entrance, someone had written the words that started it all. Sometimes the ones who refuse to give up win. Remember that, son? The galaxy had learned that lesson well. They learned it from a 12-year-old boy who spent 3 seconds in an arena, showing the universe that humans would never stop fighting for what they believed in. And they learned that underestimating humanity was the most dangerous mistake any species could make.